July 5th, 2015. An Ethiopian journalist in Virginia gets a call. They found his source dead. 3 hours later, a Saudi women's rights activist disappears from her London apartment. In Mexico, a cartel lawyer's children receive photos of him taken inside his own bedroom. None of them realize they're connected by the same nightmare. At this exact moment, someone is uploading 400 gigabytes of stolen files from Hacking Team, the company that sold their hunters the digital weapons. And the insane part is that the hacker isn't done. He's still inside their servers, watching the CEO frantically call police through the company's own hidden microphones. One person just exposed how governments murder dissidents with malware and every dictator who bought it. Who pulled this impossible heist? What did they find worth dying for? 4 months before the leak, Phineas Fisher types a simple Google query: Hacking Team Network Diagram. He's searching for any technical documentation employees might have accidentally exposed. Instead, he finds something better: a LinkedIn profile for a Hacking Team network engineer who lists specific hardware models the company uses. One device catches Fisher's attention: a Sonic Wall VPN appliance. This particular model runs firmware version 7.0.0.1, released in 2011. 4 years of unpatched vulnerabilities. Fisher spends 3 weeks building a clean room, an isolated computer environment where he can safely test exploits without detection. He purchases an identical Sonic Wall device on eBay for €89 and ships it to a rented mailbox in Germany. When it arrives, he discovers the vulnerability he suspected. The device accepts firmware updates without properly verifying signatures. He writes 1,847 lines of custom backdoor code and compiles it into fake firmware. His modified version maintains all normal functions while secretly opening a port for remote access. The backdoor includes a fail-safe. If Hacking Team's IT team runs diagnostics, the device reports normal operations. On April 12, 2015, Fisher executes his attack. Hacking Team's VPN appliance downloads his poisoned firmware and reboots. For 17 seconds, the company's remote access system goes offline. Then it returns, infected. Fisher now controls the gateway between Hacking Team's internal network and the outside world. Through this entry point, he maps their infrastructure. He finds employee passwords stored in plaintext files: P4SS word, Wolverine, Universo. The system administrator responsible for protecting a company that sells to intelligence agencies uses P4SS word. The internal network reveals institutional paranoia. Every email server has a shadow copy. Every developer workstation streams screen recordings to a central archive. Hacking Team was so busy spying on the world, they were spying on themselves. Fisher discovers audio recordings from their Milan office. 3,247 hours of workplace conversations, including executives discussing the Ethiopia problem and whether selling to Assad's Syria would cross a line. He downloads everything. But these defensive measures have a fatal flaw. The backup system uses a protocol without encryption. Fisher writes a tunnel the backup drive through his compromised VPN to his own server. He now has remote access to every backup Hacking Team ever made. Inside a complete virtual machine image of their Microsoft Exchange email server from December 2014, containing 6 years of correspondence. He boots the stolen email server on his own hardware, extracts the password hashes. One hash belongs to Daniele Milan, their lead developer. Milan uses the same password for the company's Git repository. Fisher logs into their source code vault. What he finds there makes him stop breathing for a full 5 seconds. The complete source code for Remote Control System, Hacking Team's flagship spyware. But there's something else, something that will matter to millions of people who've never heard of Hacking Team. What Fisher discovered in that code would trigger the largest emergency software patch in Adobe's history. But first, he had a decision to make about Christian Posey's admin credentials. Christian Posey's domain administrator password unlocks every door in Hacking Team's company. Fisher uses it to impersonate CEO David Vincenzetti, accessing emails that were supposed to auto-delete after 30 days. One thread from February 2015 shows Vincenzetti arguing with his sales director about a €3 million deal with Egypt's interior ministry. They're using it on the Muslim Brotherhood, not terrorists, the sales director writes. Vincenzetti responds, I don't see the distinction. Invoice them. Fisher downloads Hacking Team's financial database. The customer list reads like a human rights violation bingo card. Azerbaijan's Ministry of National Security, Kazakhstan's KNB, Saudi Arabia's Intelligence Directorate. One entry stops him cold. Sudan, marked active, despite UN sanctions. The invoice trail shows they routed payments through a shell company in Panama. Beside each client name are purchase dates, renewal fees, and a column labeled infection capacity, how many people each government can simultaneously spy on. Sudan bought licenses for 500 targets, Morocco for 600, Ethiopia for 1,000. The email server yields 689,432 messages. Fisher writes a script to extract anything containing keywords: journalist, activist, opposition, human rights. The search returns 8,956 results. One email chain from 2013 shows Hacking Team's engineers helping Ethiopian intelligence infect the computer of a journalist living in Virginia. They provide step-by-step instructions for bypassing Gmail security, complete with screenshots. Another thread contains 37 emails about targeting Bahraini protesters during the 2014 uprising. A technician jokes, "At least we're not selling to ISIS yet." In the source code repository, Fisher uncovers Hacking Team's collection of zero-day exploits, vulnerabilities unknown to software makers. The crown jewel, an Adobe Flash exploit that works on every version, every operating system. This single piece of code could infect any of the 1.5 billion computers running Flash. Hacking Team purchased it from a French researcher for 45,000 euros. They've been using it for 3 years while Adobe remained oblivious. Fisher copies the exploit, knowing that releasing it will force Adobe to patch within hours, burning a weapon worth more than most people's houses. If you like these deep dives into hacker investigations, hit subscribe. I cover a new cyber warfare story every week. The backup system contains something Fisher wasn't expecting: recordings of Hacking Team's own product demonstrations, 43 videos showing company engineers training clients. In one recording dated March 2015, an engineer demonstrates for Saudi officials how to infect an iPhone by sending a fake software update notification. The target clicks once. Their phone becomes a listening device. Fisher discovers that Hacking Team maintains active infections on 47,000 devices across 94 countries. The targeting database includes names, email addresses, and GPS coordinates. Journalists in Mexico investigating cartels, lawyers in Thailand defending protesters, teachers in Turkey organizing unions. Each entry includes infection date, data collected, and which government is watching. One target in Malaysia has been monitored for 1,247 consecutive days. Every text, call, email, and Google search for 3.5 years. By June 2015, Fisher has exfiltrated 389 gigabytes of evidence. But he faces a problem. Releasing this data will burn his access. Once Hacking Team realizes they've been breached, they'll shut down everything, destroying any evidence he hasn't yet stolen. He needs to ensure his one shot counts. Then he finds the smoking gun in an encrypted folder labeled Insurance. Inside emails between Hacking Team and a Russian FSB kernel discussing a custom version of their spyware designed to survive iPhone factory resets. For the cheap price of 2.4 million euros. The delivery date is August 2015. This deal hasn't happened yet. If Fisher waits, more journalists will be infected, more dissidents tracked. If he acts now, he prevents future victims, but loses the chance to gather more evidence. What Fisher doesn't know is that Hacking Team's engineers have started noticing anomalies. Storage systems accessing files at unusual hours, network traffic to IP addresses in countries where they have no clients. In 72 hours, they'll run a security audit that will expose his backdoor. The clock he doesn't know exists is ticking toward zero. Fisher chooses Sunday night for maximum chaos. Hacking Team's Milan office closes at 6 p.m. on Fridays, doesn't reopen until 9 a.m. Monday. That gives him 39 hours before anyone with authority can respond. At 11:31 p.m. on July 5, 2015, He uploads the torrent file to 50 seed boxes across Europe and Asia. Each server has gigabit connections, capable of spreading the leak faster than any takedown notice can travel. At 11:39 p.m., he logs into Hacking Team's Twitter account, using credentials pulled from their marketing director's email. He types the message that will destroy them. The first retweet comes from WikiLeaks 12 minutes later. Then, the intercepts Micah Lee. Then, Edward Snowden. Within an hour, 400,000 people have seen the tweet. The torrent swarm grows to 8,000 peers. Tech reporters in San Francisco, waking up to Sunday breakfast, receive alerts from sources. Download this now before it disappears. By the time Hacking Team's executives wake Monday morning, their internal documents are cached on servers they can never reach. Christian Pazzi arrives at the office at 6:47 a.m., 3 hours early. He sees the Twitter notification and assumes it's a prank. Then he checks the torrent contents. His own emails are in folder 3, including one where he calls a client technically incompetent and suggests charging them triple. He tries damage control, tweeting warnings about viruses in the leaked files. Nobody believes him. Fisher, still watching through his backdoor, sees Pazzi's attempts. He hijacks Pazzi's personal Twitter account and deletes it. A system administrator with 20 years of experience just got owned twice in one morning. The most damaging revelation surfaces within 4 hours. Security researcher Karthik Balakrishnan discovers the Adobe Flash Zero Day in Hacking Team's exploit folder. He tweets proof-of-concept code at 3:45 p.m. Milan time. Within minutes, criminal hackers are weaponizing it. The Angler exploit kit used by ransomware gangs incorporates the vulnerability by midnight. Adobe's security team, on holiday for July 4th weekend, receives emergency calls. They'll push an unscheduled patch to 1.5 billion computers within 36 hours, the fastest response in company history. Italy's postal police arrive at Hacking Team's office at 11 a.m. Monday. CEO David Vincenzetti meets them in a conference room where, 5 months earlier, he demonstrated their spyware to representatives from Turkmenistan. The police ask basic questions. Who has access to your systems? When did you last change passwords? Vincenzetti can't answer because the spreadsheet with that information is now public. While he speaks to police, journalists are reading his emails about avoiding export controls. The Italian government reacts within 72 hours. The Ministry of Economic Development suspends Hacking Team's global export license, cutting off 90% of their revenue. Stock analysts estimate the company loses 17 million euros in contracted sales within the first week. Employees start resigning when their personal information, including home addresses and salary details, appears on Pastebin. One developer, whose password was Warcraft123, can't find another job for 8 months. Every potential employer Googles his name and finds his terrible security practices. 3 governments cancel active operations based on Hacking Team surveillance. Morocco shuts down a 2-year investigation into suspected terrorists when lawyers prove the evidence came from illegal spyware. Mexico's Attorney General drops charges against 14 cartel members after their phones show traces of remote control system infections. The Lebanese government claims their Hacking Team licenses were for testing purposes only, despite leaked emails showing 127 active targets, including 3 members of parliament. Fisher maintains his access throughout the chaos, documenting Hacking Team's crisis meetings through their own surveillance system. He records Vincenzetti telling his board, "We're finished. Even if we survive legally, no government will trust us again." The CEO, who built a company on violating privacy, has his most private moment of defeat captured by his own tools. But the leaked files contain something nobody expected, not even Fisher, buried in email attachments from 2012. Technical specifications for a tool that doesn't officially exist. The discovery will force a reckoning that goes beyond one company. What Fisher found would expose a global surveillance marketplace that made Hacking Team look like amateurs, and the evidence was about to vanish. The attachment is 8 pages of technical specifications for something called Warrior Pride. Fisher almost misses it, buried in a zip file. The document describes spyware capabilities that exceed anything in Hacking Team's arsenal: persistent infection through firmware manipulation, air gap jumping via ultrasonic frequencies, and autonomous target selection using behavioral patterns. The vendor isn't named, but an email thread reveals hacking team lost a €12 million contract to this competitor in Singapore. Journalists digging through the leak discover hacking team was a medium-sized player in a market worth €12 billion annually. Their client list includes 37 governments, but competitors like NSO Group, Gamma International, and Celebrite sell to over 100. One leaked PowerPoint from a surveillance technology conference shows a pyramid diagram. At the top, Five Eyes intelligence agencies. The second tier are companies like Hacking Team selling to regional powers, and the bottom tier are criminal organizations using stolen versions. The same tools flow down, just with different price tags. The Ethiopia revelations trigger immediate consequences. Citizen Lab, analyzing the leaked targeting database, identifies 23 journalists infected across 6 countries. They contact each victim within 48 hours. Tades Kersmo, a journalist in London, learns he's been monitored since 2013. Every source he's spoken to, every document he's received, every movement he's made, all captured. 3 of his sources in Addis Ababa were arrested 2 weeks after he interviewed them by phone. Now he knows how the government found them. Saudi Arabia's targeting list includes 764 active infections. Cross-referencing phone numbers with public records reveals the victims: women's rights activists, Shia clerics, foreign workers organizing for better conditions. One target, marked priority in the database, is a teenage blogger with 50,000 Twitter followers. His infection date is the day after he posted about poverty in Riyadh. The malware captured his drafts folder, containing posts he was too frightened to publish. Saudi intelligence saw his private thoughts before he could self-censor. The source code reveals Hacking Team's quality control process. Comments in Italian describe shortcuts taken to meet deadlines. "This is terrible, but the Kazakhs are paying tomorrow," reads one note. Another, "Don't fix unless someone complains." The Android infection module contains code copied from a 2009 Chinese APT attack, complete with the original Mandarin comments. Professional spyware sold to governments for millions uses recycled attack code from forums frequented by teenage hackers. Fisher releases a second torrent on July 8th, containing 63 gigabytes he initially held back. This includes Hacking Team's training videos, 40 hours of employees teaching government agents to violate privacy laws. In one session, a trainer explains how to write infection emails, mention their children by name, include a photo from their social media, make it emotional. Fear or curiosity work best. He demonstrates on a fake target, crafting a message about a school emergency. The government students take notes. The financial records expose the economics of surveillance. Hacking Team's base package costs €45,000 for 3 infections. Each additional target costs €11,000. Annual maintenance runs €27,000. Optional modules include WhatsApp interception €15,000, Skype recording €15,000, GPS tracking €8,000. One invoice to Egypt's Interior Ministry totals €3.4 million for a public safety suite capable of monitoring 600 people simultaneously. The payment terms net 90, like they're selling office supplies instead of oppression tools. Competitors scramble to distance themselves. NSO Group issues a statement claiming their spyware includes human rights safeguards. Gamma International insists they've never sold to problematic regimes. But Fisher's leak includes emails between companies coordinating prices, dividing territories, and sharing exploit code. One thread from 2014 shows 5 surveillance vendors agreeing not to compete for a Uzbekistan contract, allowing Hacking Team to charge 40% above market rate. The invisible hand of the market is wearing brass knuckles. On July 10th, something unexpected happens. The leaked database starts changing. Hacking Team's command and control servers, still online, begin receiving distress signals from infected devices. As news of the breach spreads, targets are discovering and removing the spyware. Fisher watches through his back door as the infection count drops, 47,000 to 31,000 to 15,000. Each number represents someone reclaiming their privacy. But some infections persist. their hosts unaware they're still broadcasting every keystroke to servers now controlled by unknown parties. Because hacking teams' encryption keys are in the leak, anyone can now impersonate their command servers. Security researchers detect copycat operations within 96 hours. Criminal groups in Eastern Europe start using hacking teams' infection methods with their own payloads. The tools built for lawful interception are now lawless, spreading like digital smallpox. Adobe's patch only fixes one vulnerability. Dozens more remain in the wild. Who controls the zombie infections still phoning home? And what happens when spyware has no master? 6 months after the leak, 8,000 hacking team infections remain active, pinging servers that no longer belong to the company. Security researchers call them orphan implants, spyware that outlived its creator. 3 criminal organizations claim to control portions of this ghost network. They auction access on dark web forums. Ethiopian government targets 50 Bitcoin per device. The surveillance state's tools have become commodities in a digital black market. Phineas Fisher publishes a 16,000-word technical guide explaining exactly how he hacked Hacking Team. He includes source code, screenshots, and step-by-step instructions. The message is explicit. Anyone with intermediate programming skills can topple a surveillance company. Within 6 months, 4 similar breaches occur. Cellebrite loses 900 gigabytes of data. Gamma International's Fisher spyware gets leaked. 2 smaller vendors quietly shut down rather than risk exposure. The guide becomes required reading in computer science programs at MIT, Stanford, and Tsinghua University. Italy's investigation into the breach concludes without arrests. Prosecutors identify 16 potential suspects across 9 countries, but can't determine which one is Fisher. The hacker's operational security was flawless. TOR for all connections, cryptocurrency for all purchases, fake identities for all accounts. One investigator admits off-record, "We have gigabytes of evidence showing what he did, but nothing showing who he is." Hacking Team spent €4 million on forensic analysis that yielded 3 words: unknown threat actor. The company attempts resurrection as Memento Labs in 2016. They claim to have learned from past mistakes and implemented industry-leading security. Their first client meeting leaks within hours. Fisher apparently maintained persistent access or inspired copycats. The rebrand fails. By 2017, key employees have scattered to competitors or left the industry entirely. David Vincenzetti sells his stake for 2% of its peak value. In his final interview, he says, "One person with a laptop destroyed everything we built over 13 years." The Adobe 0 Days impact extends far beyond Hacking Team. Security researchers analyzing the exploit discover it's part of a family of vulnerabilities dating back to 2008. Every Flash version for 7 years was vulnerable. The patch Fisher forced Adobe to release prevents an estimated 400,000 infections per month. Ransomware gangs lose their most reliable infection vector. The FBI's cyber division estimates Fisher's leak accidentally prevented €2 billion in cybercrime damages. The hacker trying to expose surveillance accidentally became one of history's most effective cybercrime fighters. Governments don't stop buying spyware, they just get sneakier. The market grows to €18 billion by 2020. NSO Group's Pegasus replaces Hacking Team's RCS as the preferred tool for targeting dissidents. But now every vendor knows they're one skilled hacker away from destruction. Companies implement air-gapped development networks, monthly security audits, and bug bounties that exceed government salaries. The cost of spyware triples as vendors price in the risk of exposure. Smaller nations get priced out, creating a surveillance gap between rich and poor countries. The orphan infections mutate. Security researchers discover variants combining Hacking Team's code with ransomware, crypto miners, and botnet controllers. One hybrid targets Iranian nuclear facilities using Hacking Team's infection methods and Stuxnet's payload delivery. Another variant spreads through WhatsApp, infecting 200,000 phones before Facebook patches the vulnerability. Each mutation carries DNA from the original leak, spreading Fisher's attack across years and continents. In 2019, a Spanish court charges an unnamed individual with hacking crimes related to both the Gamma and Hacking Team breaches. The suspect is tried in absentia. They never appear. Speculation swirls about Fisher's identity: a disgruntled employee, a state-sponsored actor, an idealistic hacktivist. Spanish police raid an apartment in Huelva, finding sophisticated computer equipment but no occupant. The trail goes cold. Fisher's last confirmed communication was offering a €100,000 bounty for anyone who hacks oil companies or banks. Nobody has claimed it. Today, fragments of hacking teams' code appear in malware samples weekly. Their exploits, refined by criminal innovation, infect computers that weren't built when the company died. Security researchers call it digital archaeology, tracing attack patterns back to a company that ceased to exist in 2015. Every infection is a ghost of Fisher's hack, echoing through networks worldwide. Fisher proved one person could humble an empire, but the empire struck back by becoming a hydra. Cut off one head, 5 companies emerged from offshore havens. The hacker won the battle by destroying hacking team. The surveillance state won the war by learning from his playbook. Every activist using Signal, every journalist with burner phones, every citizen who tapes over their webcam, they're all responding to what Fisher revealed that July night. Want to know about another massive privacy breach that nobody saw coming? Check out my previous video on the hack that exposed 500 million travelers, where a single database mistake revealed passport numbers, credit cards, and travel patterns of 500 million people, including undercover agents whose covers were blown overnight.